Hello, good morning. Welcome to Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, as always, we put Ghana first. I'm your host, Samson Ladi Anyanini. And this morning, poverty is grinding down millions of people all over the country. Prices of essentials are rising daily, and people are struggling to keep families alive together. Though poverty stares us in the face, it appears lost to those with power. That's the Most Reverend Philip Name of the Catholic Bishops' Conference. And that was a statement at the opening of the conference by the bishops in Wa this week. He says, the claim of protecting the public purse, that promise, has also been lost. The NPP and the presidency have been speaking through their respective directors of communications, and they are surprised, they are shocked at the criticisms which they say lack focus and clarity and are not credible. They insist that, but for short human memory of Ghanaians, the same citizens who endorsed the NPP only 10 months ago would recall receiving freebies just recently in water and electricity. There was actually food served for free. And that they are sending the economy in the right direction with much transformation in all spheres of public life, and that the public purse is well protected. Guess what? These are not my words. And President Mahama takes his stand to have a bite at the subject of the economy and social justice. So in his address to climax his thank you tour, he says, our country is not in the right path. It's not on the right path. We are clearly headed for a major ditch if immediate action is not taken to reverse the trend. What can we do collectively to address the excruciating hardship and suffering confronting many Ghanaians? This morning we ask, you listen to the Catholic bishops, you listen to President Mahama, you listen to the presidency and the NPP. What is your reality about the economy and social justice? Tidal waves swallow homes and leave over 4,000, is it, in Keta without food and clothing too. NADMO, the NDC, and philanthropists ran to get them meals and blankets, while the NPP calls the media to parliament to display quote-unquote fake photos to encourage condemnation for sand winning, which they blame for the worsening of the situation there. What's the rescue plan? That must be the focus. When will the Keta Sea Defense and Resettlement Project be completed? These are the major issues we're canvassing for you this morning. And I don't forget that we're getting into Christmas, and as you can see, the road safety authorities, the police have all begun the ritual of getting all of us to be safe on the roads. Every year, particularly at Christmas, just too many lives are lost unjustifiably. Too many people are killed on the roads. I want to remind you that you can stay safe. You can avoid the carnage on our roads. That's by way of my take. Remember, as I told you last week, picking a phone or using the phone in any way whilst you are driving is prohibited by law. And that has caused people to lose focus, to lose attention, and run into ditches. If you did that, you endanger yourself. And additionally, if you survive it, you could be facing criminal prosecution, which can get you to pay as much as 6,000 Ghana cedis, or you go to jail for 3 months. Supposed to be 600, and then you go to jail for 3 months. We can avoid that. And these days, by the change of the law, if you try to bribe the police, you are looking to go to jail for 12 to 25 years. First of all, let's think about our lives and avoid these opportunities that will also worsen our situation. We'll be right back to deal with the vexed matters.
When we're talking, nobody came here. When we're talking, nobody came here. So leave here. When you are talking, nobody came here. So leave. I'm telling you, when you are talking, nobody came here. I'm saying it. When you are talking, nobody came here. So leave.
This is what is happening at Keta, and if you go to Wikipedia, you will see this is a report, sun winning activity in Keta coastal area, and the source is coverghana.com.gh as of February 9, 2021. As of February 9, 2021. This is what is happening there. Now, per our research and the research of the majority, we relied on fourthestate.com. They have done some work in that area, and they titled that work, "Dear Sea, you are invited into our homes. The sand is gone." As much as government is making effort to provide relief, the relief items are themselves not the solution. They are temporary relief after the whole thing has occurred. But then what steps can we take? And this is where I am appealing to stakeholders in that region to work together with those involved in sand winning, because the research is clearly pointing to the fact that these activities are making the people there more vulnerable, and it will cost the nation more money in terms of recovery, in terms of settling these people.
The Honorable Deputy Majority Leader says this is attributable to sand winning. That is the most pathetic statement I have heard on this matter. He demonstrates a certain lack of understanding of the geomorphological formation and causage of denudation of our coastline in this country. Sand winning does not cause tidal waves to pound coastlines. The destruction of our coastline caused by tidal waves is as a result of the rising in the sea level. So, and he has come here to bring a picture that clearly is not even reflective of the coastline of Keta or Aflao or Angloga or where I come from. Our coastline has no forest on the coastline. Our coastline from Aflao to Anyangwi through Angloga is full of pristine sand.
The communities where the sea defense is were not as badly hit as the ones that don't have any at all. So the evidence is there. It's clear that we do need the sea defense. And of course, yes, interim, I agree that we should find a decent place for the people to live, give them a warm meal to eat, to nourish them, because that's making sure they live in dignity. And so within the shortest possible time, that should happen. But did I not hear that in May? Did I not hear that in 2017 when this happened? In 2017, Honorable Atachia was the Minister for Works and Housing. I was not in government, but I went there because I had concern for my people. I donated to them even in 2017. And we agreed even at that time that we must continue with the second phase. So I don't know what this discussion is all supposed to do.
This place has not been reclaimed. And so we'll have this, till it gets to Aflao. Now, if we don't continue, if we don't complete the loop by claiming what the sea has taken, we'll have this problem forever. It's not only perennial, it will continue forever. And so my urgent appeal to this government is to continue the first phase that has been ended there. And so that we can reclaim all these shorelines up to Aflao, and Togolese or Togo government should also continue with their reclamation.
Currently, government is in the process of finding the funds to complete phase 2 of this project. You recall that phase 1 of this project was completed in 2019. And I think sometime in April this year, feasibility studies for phase 2 of the project was completed. And as I said, God willing, very soon government should be able to find the funds to be able to do this. But once that happens, the Minister for Works and Housing would definitely apprise the country of whatever is supposed to take place with regards to that.
The president will be traveling to Cape Verde to go and witness presidential swearing in. When the people of Keta, the coast, are devastated, instead of a government who should take prompt action and visit the people, they are going to ceremony. They are going to ceremony to go and, climate ceremony. When people are dying, emergency, state of emergency in Keta, Ketu South, and then Anglo, should be declared. But here we are today. The relief item is supposed to be prompt and swift. Nothing is happening. And then we are raising these germane issues, and then you say that this has been happening long ago. This is not. In Keta, there are some communities like Keji Copper, for more than 40 years, they haven't experienced this before. But now it's happening.
Welcome back. So you've been listening to a number of people who have had to speak about this subject. You heard Afenyo Marking, who is MP Efutu, and also the Deputy Majority Leader in Parliament. They held a press conference yesterday to bring a new perspective to the discussion, which they said has been lost in the whole discussion so far, and which they insist that as government is doing its best, there also is a need to look at that issue of sand winning, which they blame for aggravating the situation there. We'll deal with that very briefly and get into the, if you like, the most important part of the discussion. And we will show, as you can see, we'll show later why the pictures that the MP was showing are inaccurate. Then you heard Dafiamapo, Roxanne Nelson, Dafiamapo, also MP, Saudai, who also had issues. And there almost, was a brawl in the House because the MPs felt that the photograph that was being displayed ought not have been displayed because it was, if you like, quote unquote, fake. It is actually not about Keta. It's not a photo generated in Ghana. Unfortunate, but that happened. So that's a picture you see in your shot again, which is being credited to the Keta area. That is where you find this sand winning going on. Unfortunately, it is a picture from Sierra Leone, where you see the sand, the trucks that are packed. Yes, you see these trucks. It's actually not a photograph from Ghana. It's from Sierra Leone. And this was being shown as being Keta here in Ghana. And that's a big reason for what is going on. So they almost threw some blows there, but people were at hand to separate and ensure that it didn't happen between Dafiamapo and Dr. Stephen Amwa. You heard Jifa Gomashi also speaking on the matter. In the whole of the week, she has been speaking and literally weeping for her people in the area. Emmanuel Bejra, also MP, also speaking about it and asking urgent action by government. Then Eugene Ahin, Communications Director, the presidency, speaking and giving some hope that very soon, I don't know if that's the usual political very soon, they said very soon, phase 2 of the project will continue to save the situation. We will bring you pictures, more pictures of what you may have seen happening in Keta in the course of the week from the 7th of November. And this morning, the NDC, I understand, led by the flag bearer for 2020 elections, John Dramani Mahama, is going to the area to sympathize with the people and to make donations. Let me introduce my guests this morning. My guests this morning are Hubert Osei Owusu Ansah. He's Acting Director, Hydrological Services Department. Right. Selom Jacko Ababio is MD, Kelly Engineering Consult Limited, and former lecturer in coastal engineering and oceanography at the University of Ghana. Philip Neri Jason Kwashiga has his PhD in marine science and is with the Institute for Environmental and Sanitation Studies at the University of Ghana. Gentlemen, thank you so very much for making the time to join us via Zoom. Good morning, sirs.
Good morning.
Good.
Thank you for having us.
Great. I'd like to hear each one of you so that we are clear that we have you in clear sound.
Good morning, Samson, and good morning to your cherished listeners.
Great to hear you. And here in the studio with us is my colleague at the bar, Eduji Kujo Tameklo. He's lawyer and member, NDC National Communications and Legal Team. Thank you for making the time to be with us, sir.
Thank you, Samson.
Great.
Thank you to your viewers and listeners.
Right. If we may start by first you updating us on what is happening this morning in the affected areas as far as your party and what President Mahama is seeking to do is concerned.
Thank you once again. Samson, as you rightly indicated, H.E. John Dramani Mahama should be within the affected communities at about 11 a.m. today or this morning. Now, what he intends to do is, first of all, appreciate firsthand the kind of thing that is going on. If you recall, around 2015, a contract was awarded to Amandi to extend the coastline by way of the sea defense. That project completed around 2019. Now, the expectation was that it was going to be extended, what is called the phase 2. It does appear that that has not been prioritized now.
We'll talk about that. I just needed basic facts of the trip this morning.
Basically, just to relate with the people, provide some relief items to them. That's for today's intervention.
Great.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. And please, you have seen a number of rescue missions, so to speak, a number of calls for support and donation. We want to plead with all Ghanaians to support the donation drive towards helping the many people who have been displaced, who have lost their homes, who have lost everything, practically everything, and do not even know where to sleep. The NADMO has been trying to arrange for them to have some shelter, as in schools and churches. But for those that clearly have been inundated by what has happened, the devastation, have been devastated, they can't have access to those as well. So it is the plea that let all of us come together to contribute, to support victims of this wave in the area. Now, let's get to deal with this matter. And I like to first begin on the note of what the members of parliament sought to do yesterday, and then get your expert views on the role of sand winning in all of this. And I must say that this is not to suggest that we are not sympathetic to the plight of the people. Of course, we understand that what is immediately needed is relief to the people. But at the same time, this issue has been brought up. Let's attempt to interrogate it, despite the fact that the photographs that were used were false and that they don't emanate, or they were not generated from the Keta area. So briefly, what do you make of what transpired in the House yesterday?
Yes, Samson, I am completely disappointed with the attempts by my learned senior, Afenyo Markin, and the team that he led yesterday in trying to reduce the conversation to the issue of sand winning. If anybody has an appreciation of that area, you would come to the conclusion that you cannot at this point be blaming sand winning for what happened or what has been happening in the community. And so to attempt to narrow the conversation to sand winning, and also to, as it were, corroborate that with a fictitious picture, it demonstrates a certain lack of thoroughness that the majority side wanted to cause a certain mischief, obviously against the people. But you see, Samson, what I find a bit more curious in all of this is, if the leadership, the current leadership of this country, have had the benefit of going to the area to assess matters for itself, will not come to the point where we will need a fictitious picture in order to tell a story that is not true. And I make this point because I strongly believe that, look, the president, within 30 minutes or an hour, could be in Keta, together with the leadership of the majority, to assess firsthand what exactly has happened and get a detailed briefing from experts so that you do not embarrass yourself before national TV by demonstrating with fictitious pictures that that is the state of affairs in Keta and its environment. And so I strongly believe that maybe the leadership of the majority side, first of all, need to apologize to the people in that community because what they did was wrong. And if they have a very solid research team, give them a briefing on the state of affairs now.
Right. But you will acknowledge that sand winning is an issue that has to be spoken about in the area.
First of all, we all need to be clear in our mind. Sand winning in and of itself is not illegal. Once you have the appropriate authorization from the Environmental Protection Agency. Now, if you engage in an activity that is illegal, prima facie, we know the consequence of it. So we cannot obviously have a conversation without relating it to it. But we cannot say the tidal waves and the consequences that it has brought to the people in that community is as a result of sand winning. No, we can have a proper conversation.
But it has contributed to worsening it. That's the claim.
No.
Okay. And let's get to the aspects
eventually
now.
We'll have the opportunity of listening to the aspect. But I need to make this point.
Okay.
That as we speak, there is no research finding that it is as a result of sand winning that the incidence of tidal waves had become worsened. I want to see that work.
Okay. Let's get to the aspects and hear what they have to say about that. And gentlemen, we understand that we want to deal with this as an aspect, just preliminarily, and then we get into the main situation because the people are in grief and we cannot act as though we are not sympathetic to what they are going through now. Some don't know where they slept last night, as you continue to hear them say, and some are just getting scattered around the place. Now, we invite you to support the relief funds for Keta, K2, and the K2 South, and all those that have been affected. Support the victims of the storm surge in the Anlo, Keta, and K2 South areas by donating to the Volta Tidal Wave Relief Fund. Volta Tidal Wave Relief Fund. The items needed are mattresses. We need about 2,000 mattresses, blankets, mosquito nets, food supplies, and other relief items. You could also donate the items, or you could send money as well. If you want to donate only items, please contact this number, 020. Please write it, you will need it. 020 90 62 388. 020 90 62 388. I take that number once again, 020 90 62 388. Just call that number and you will receive guidance and directions as to what to do. You could also send money. There's no cash payments that is being received. You can download Chango app at Contribute to Volta Tidal Wave Relief Fund. Download Chango app at Chango app and contribute to Volta Tidal Wave Relief Fund campaign at www.campaigns.changoapp.com. The short code is star 889 hash. Star 887 star 889 hash to all networks. This is also one way you can donate. The short code is star 887 star 889 hash. Please take note of that. Star 887 star 889 hash to all networks. Please, let's help those affected. Now, let me speak to my experts. Now, let's start with Hubert. What do you what do you say about the intimation that the minority want us to pay attention to? To what extent does sand winning contribute to what has been experienced in this area? And it is not a matter for today. Professor Kofi Awono, a professor who taught me, God bless his soul, the professor who taught me creative writing at the University of Ghana, wrote as far back as 1964, talking about the way the sea was eating the land at home, carrying fowls away, cooking pots and ladles, how the sea at home had caused people to wail and had brought mourning shouts of the women and forced them to call to the gods to worship and to ask them to protect them from the angry sea, among others. So let's first begin to interrogate the science in the claim of sand winning being the worsening factor in what we are beginning to see. Yes, what do you know about what is going on there, and to what extent does it contribute to what we are seeing?
Thank you very much. Humbly, I would like us to look at the major causes of coastal erosion in Ghana. Well, we have two main areas, the natural causes and then the man-made causes. In our part of the world, the natural cause is mainly wave action. And man-made causes, we have a lot, including removal of sand from beaches, thus sand winning. Man-made causes, I'm focusing on removal of sand from beaches, as that's an issue now. I must say that the Hydrological Services Department, in working under the Ministry of Works and Housing to execute major sea defense projects, has always had this as an issue. And I will not restrict this to any particular area. In fact, we have realized in most cases that after the construction of the sea defense structures, we have accretion of sand, which is the main aim of our protection. But in some places, the sand that has accreted, inhabitants go to wane. We have had this as an issue. And, after working on sea defense projects in many areas, I will not advise that we restrict sand winning to any particular area. It's an issue. Wave action, that's the natural cause, is a major issue. Now that we have the impact of climate change, sea level rise, that's a major issue. Sand winning is a contributory factor. For now, this is my presentation.
So does it contribute to the extent of devastation, or it invites what happened?
Actually, sand winning contributes to the extent of devastation. Now, what do we see? Along our
so that sand winning is not the cause.
Sand winning is a cause.
Of what?
At what time?
Is a cause of what?
Major erosion. And now this, what happens? You see, we have waves impacting on the beaches. So the wave energies are transferred onto the beaches. And this causes erosion.
Okay.
Now, if sand winning is taking place, what happens is the beaches are deprived of sand, and for that matter, the wave is able to move closely to the communities. Yes.
Okay.
So wave action is a cause. As I said, that's the natural cause.
Yes.
Then we have man-made causes, including sand winning.
Is it not to be understood this way? Forgive my lay appreciation, and I want to carry my audience too along. So when I'm asking questions, please pardon me, but it is so that we can, as it were, sift out what helps us. Is it not the case that the natural cause, which is wave action, is the cause, but activities including sand winning will make you more vulnerable once there is the wave action, but it is not the cause?
Wave action is a natural cause. Sand winning is a man-made cause. Now, let's look at it this way. Why do we implement these projects? We implement these projects to get accretion of sand. That's to get more sand on the beaches. That's to mitigate erosion. So now, if you have sand already on the beaches, and you go to, win the sand, so it means you are causing beach erosion.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Let me get to your friends, and that's Hubert Osei Owusu-Ansah, who is acting director, Hydrological Services Department. Selom Jacko Abebio, what do you say about the same issue that brought the brawl in Parliament yesterday? What's the place of sand winning? How much of it goes on around this area that you know about?
Well, hello, Hubert. I would like to slightly differ from what Hubert said. Hubert was focusing on erosion on the coast, the causes of erosion. But I think what happened in Parliament was the storm surge that inundated the coastal environment. And I think it was there that the members of Parliament was debating the causes of the storm surge. We need to differentiate these two things. They are slightly different. They add up to the problems on the coast. The storm surge is a natural feature. We tend to call it tidal waves over time, and that's become the common name. But a more technical term is storm surge. Surge means that the water level has gone up. I could tell you the factors usually that will result in a storm surge. You would need to have a storm happening offshore, which is pushing winds, strong winds towards the shore, or we talk about a long fetch. You need to have possibly a high tide, a spring tide, which would elevate the water level such that when the storms come, the setup moves. You would need to have a low-lying coastal environment. And you need to have all these factors aligning. The stars need to align perfect. That is why it doesn't happen every day. So when the storm surge is coming from the South Sea, long fetch towards the beach, and then if you also tend to have very hot weather, which is, if you remember your geography, will result in a low atmospheric cell over, or low pressure cell over the area. That low barometric pressure could also cause the water level to rise up naturally. So you add all this up, and you have a water rushing to the inland areas. When I look at the data after the storm surge, I noticed that we had a spring tide, high tide. The highest of the tide was at dawn. So that worked very well. there was a storm from the Atlantic Ocean, piling a lot of wind towards the beach. Then we had experienced a lot of hot weather. So probably there was a low pressure cell over that area. This added up and overtopped the coast. What Hubert was saying is that
Go ahead.
The sand is supposed to act as a natural barrier over this. Now, periodically, there's overtopping. Naturally, it happens. However, if you remove the sand, then you are more likely to have an overtopping sequence. I know that all along the coastline of Ghana, there is sand winning. It is more prevalent in some parts, was very prevalent in the Greater Accra region than even the Volta region. Laws have made to reduce this. The intensity has gone down. There's very little industrial scale sand winning that goes on, to the best of my knowledge. It does happen in small scales. But whichever scale is happening on, it has the potential to cause this. However, we need to understand that there is that storm surge that happened, which was a result of so many factors coming together and causing the water level to go above the ground.
I need a bit of understanding over this. You have taught in coastal engineering and oceanography at the university. The expectation had been that if there will be anything, it will happen, is it June and July? Because my reading of when these things have happened, it does appear they have happened around June or July. Why this time in November?
Probably climate change. That's what we are experiencing. Rainfall patterns have changed all over the country. Storms have changed. We are now in a different type of climate as the world is changing. There's been quite a difference in the oceanographic patterns. Circulation patterns have all been changing. We've been tracking this. The driving force now is climate change. And since the driving force is climate change, the prediction is that we are going to experience more of this in the future.
Thank you. And Philip Nari, Jason Kwashiga, thank you for your time again. And you are in marine science. Now, can we get first some explanation as to what may have taken, NADMO and other authorities unawares by surprise? Because if it does appear they would have thought that having gone past June, we were in the period of safety. But regardless of that, if it happened any time, do you feel that there's a capacity of this country to respond to some of these things?
Right, thank you very much. In the first place, like Salom said, these are there are factors that lead to this. And for you to be able to really predict or be aware of when this will happen, you need to have an early warning system. And like you said, climate is changing, and sometimes it's become more difficult to really just use what's used to happen in the past to say, okay, this normally happens in June, July, so this year it's the same thing. That is changing. So the ideal would be to have an early warning system in place. In that case, then we are ready to better prepared to handle whatever comes up as in the form of storm surge. In terms of capacity, I would say that I can't answer for NADMO, but first of all, like I said, if we don't have these early warning systems in place, then we are lacking in that area. If it comes to being able to predict.
Okay, but what's your take? What's your take on the role that human activity, including sand winning, which we are told appears to be replacing the common job in the area? What is the role that it plays? Because fishing, and farming have been the mainstay of the people within the coastal, areas, including these places. And suddenly it does appear that they can't make much out of that. So it's the sand winning that is now replacing those other jobs. What do you know about the level of this problem of sand winning, and what's your understanding of how much it contributes to the level of devastation when there is a natural activity like the storm surge?
All right, thank you. I must say that I grew up in Keta, so I know the terrain a bit. And I know that sand winning goes on along that stretch. But to the magnitude, I cannot really say. And like previous speakers already said, it definitely contributes. In fact, we did a paper just last year, and one of the recommendations was that we should try and halt this sand winning, because once you are removing the sand, like Salom said, you are making the place more vulnerable. You are lowering the place more, and then once there is a surge, it easily comes in and flood the place.
You are removing the protection that you get, right?
Yes, you remove the natural protection from the place. And I see that happening at some places. You go, even during the Ketasi defense, there was an artificial dune that was created to help in this. And you see some places you go and they are removing it. So definitely it increases the vulnerability. That is why there is a need to put a stop to it. No matter the level at which it is, there is a need to halt it.
Right. You say you don't know the extent of the issue of sand winning at the place, but do you have an idea how widespread it may be, and whether it will be anything close to the pictures that were shown from Sierra Leone, the capital Freetown, on the Hamilton Beach? That's where this is going on, and the majority, unfortunately, was misled to put this up. And over there, they indicate that up to 40 trucks, and some people have repeated this story, that's what happens at the place. Up to 40 trucks can be lined up at any one time to be loaded with sand.
Along our coast, I know there was a study by Jonah, but that was on the central coast there, about which we could see something close to that, where you saw trucks parked along the coast and removing sand. But if you come to our coast, in fact, once in a while, I go to that area a lot. Once in a while, I meet some trucks, not as big as what is shown, removing sand from the beach. And so I say from just what I've experienced that it is not up to that magnitude that is shown in that picture. And like rightly said, that is not from our coast.
Okay.
So for that side, from what I have seen and from observations when I go to the beach, it may not be up to that magnitude.
Okay. So to any one of you, what do you know? Has there been a ban? I'll come to you quickly. Has there been a ban on sand winning along the coastal lines, or particularly this area?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, sand winning from the coast and shingle winning from the coast has been illegal for a long time in Ghana. People have slipped in a little bit and, taking some on the blind side of the law. But it has always been illegal, as far as I remember, in our rules. And the EPA frowns very much on it. Hubert's place, HSD, they frown seriously on it because we know the problem. Hubert's previous predecessor, Dr. William Spencer, once told me that Job 16 was built from the sand that was taken from the coast of Accra, and that is why Accra experienced a lot of, erosion. So it's something that has been known probably in the 80s or even before that, and there have been laws put in place to stop. So industrial scale sand winning from the coast, I doubt it.
Yeah, so what should be done? What is not being done and what should be done? I think all three of you may say a word about this before we move on and move away from this issue.
Well, one, education. We need to tell the local indigents that taking the sand, even though it may solve today's hunger issues, will create tomorrow's sleeplessness or lack of accommodation issues. And then two, enforcement of the laws. But education is key. We need to get a buy-in from the people who stay along the coastline. Let them see the importance. We've always insisted on that. Once the education is going and once the younger generation are picking it up, slowly those practices will die down.
Okay. Education, enforcement. Yes, let's hear your colleagues. What do you have to say? Particularly for people who don't have some alternative livelihood.
Yes, education. Also, I think community leaders should help, because we've had experiences where community leaders have even aided, inhabitants to do this, and it becomes very difficult to check. So in addition to education, the role of community leaders is also key.
Okay, yes.
Yes, so I think it's been said, so education is key. And once the people are aware of the impacts of their activities, I'm sure, and if we, like Hubert said, if we put in community watch systems that, okay, this is what you are doing to yourself, I'm sure that they'll be able to keep their community themselves.
Yeah, but that's the question I'm asking. That's the question I'm asking, Salom. A question of survival. A question of survival. So you see that along these areas, you see a booming industry of block manufacturing going on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So, well, I'll say that there should be alternative livelihoods. I'm sure if we come together, especially if we are able to solve this unemployment problem, which goes beyond, the community, this will help. But also, there are alternatives available in the communities. I know there's a problem if it comes to fishing, because there's dwindling fish stock, and then people are moving into farming, and so those things are there. I'm sure if we look for alternatives, they are there. But if we deter people, I'm sure they will look for alternatives.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm going to return to you for us to look at the bigger picture of the permanent fix. The permanent fix. I suppose if government had been as committed as they had promised, we would not be here today talking about this devastation and what perhaps is going on. We understand that in other coastal areas, quite some work has gone on. You have work that's gone on up to about 90% of work in the sea defense. 90% of work, some places about 60, some 30%, and so on. What do we know has been done here? How do we aggregate it? And what should be done? Why have we not been able to take the permanent solution fix all these years? And I'm referring to Professor Awono's, poem about the situation as far back as 1964. Yes,
yes
on the issue of sand winning,
yes.
block manufacturing in these places. What do you know the extent is about? And what would you say to the people about that, even in their pain at this time?
You see, like we always say, a picture says more than 1,000 words. And so if you look at the decision by the majority group to show that particular picture, you will see that what is happening at that particular coastline is commercial sand winning. That's a commercial quantity. Now, the thing that happened in Keita, and as the other panelists have indicated, is nothing close to that. And that is why I'm saying that we need to have specific research work conducted within that area to show the extent to which sand winning is contributing to the devastating effect of the tidal wave. Until that, we have a difficulty associating the challenges that the people are going through currently. It becomes general propositions. Obviously, we know if you take the soil cover of a particular place, there's definitely going to be some effect on that particular locality. So let's work out and know exactly the effect and the extent to which some of these human activities are causing in the area. Like you pointed out, economic activities are becoming a bit limited to the people in those communities. Obviously, if you read the write-up by the respected Professor Nyidehu Awuno, he indicates how the people used to, get everything from the sea. Today, you cannot have the same conversation. Fish stock, everything is going down. And so the tendency by the people to look out for other activities is high. But you see, Senior, one of the things that I think we should also, look at is that, you see, if indeed it's true that the people are winning sand in commercial quantity in the area, what stops state authorities intervening with our security people? Because with the anti-galamsey, it's the same environmental challenge. We have deployed the military in resolving that problem. So if in fact sand winning exists in those areas, what has stopped us? I mean, if we can deploy military in voter registration, nothing stops us in getting the military involved, if indeed that's the state of affairs.
Okay, thank you very much. We take a quick break. We'll return to continue the look at the bigger picture, the permanent fix, what has happened to that. The Ministry of Works and Housing has been, explaining to us something. Or if you look at their budgeting document, you will find that they speak about the coastal protection sort of project that they have been doing, and they say that they have continued construction works along the Dansoman, Axim, Amanfo, Kuma, Anomabo, and Elimina. That's phase 3 of the coastal protection project, which are currently at 90%, 90% for Dansoman, 90% for Axim, Amanfo Kuma, that is 61%, Anomabo, that is 43%, and the Elimina, that's 40% that they have done on those projects. They speak about other projects that they are pursuing and which are progressively, moving on. Cape Coast, 22%, Discof, 30%, Commander, 30%, Abuaji, phase 2 of that project, 15%, and then Ningo Pram Pram, coastal protection, that's 15%. What is the percentage for Keita and the areas presently affected? Why has it taken decades? Decades of notice of the harm, decades of knowledge of the consequences, and yet the delay in resolving this. We'll be right back.
It is still high tide at Fuveme. The tidal waves that hit this community left in its trail uprooted coconut trees, collapsed residential structures and school buildings. 60-year-old Knowledge Diwanu giving instructions to a carpenter who is removing the roofing sheets of what he now describes as his former building. He says he was in his room when the disaster struck. Like him, many residents have lost hope that the situation will get better. He says many of them are now resorting to palm branches and thatch for their buildings as they fear any other expensive material used will be a wasted investment.
I can say that I was born in 1974. in my house. This is my house. From here to the seashore is about 1,500 meters when I was very young. Okay. Yeah, 1,500 meters from the sea when I was very young. But up to this time, you can now see the sea from here is about 30 meters. So the sea is gradually coming, getting nearer to us. Since I was in 1980s to 1990s, the sea is coming gradually.
The president to be traveling to Cape Verde to go and witness presidential swearing in. When the people of Keta, the coast, are devastated, instead of a government who should take prompt action and visit the people, they are going to ceremony. They are going to ceremony to go and, climate ceremony. When people are dying, emergency, state of emergency in Keta, Ketu South, and then Anglon should be declared. But here we are today. The relief items are supposed to be prompt and swift. Nothing is happening. And then we are raising these germane issues, and then you say that this has been happening long ago. This is not. In Keta, there are some community like Keji Copper, for more than 40 years, they haven't experienced this before. But now it's happening.
You're welcome back. This is Newsfile, it's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. So now let's talk about the permanent fix that has been expected and is taking decades. You heard the man whose property is affected. He says when he was young, it was 1,000+ meters away. The sea was 1,000+ meters away from their home. Today, it is only 30 meters, to their home. We still continue to invite you to put in some donations. Use the platforms that we have announced to reach out. It could be clothing, it could be mattresses, and please let's be one another's keeper. Samuel Okujeto Blackwell had issued this statement and said that a delegation of the Volta caucus in Parliament has been visiting victims of the destructive tidal waves and also making initial cash donations ahead of the visit of former President John Mahama today. The engagements on the day we commemorate the first anniversary of the passing of Chairman Rawlings is most instructive because his legacy is that of empathy, care for the distressed, personal touch, and affection, empowerment, solidarity, and probity. Okay, so they are making cash donations and ensuring, like Jifa Gomashe said earlier, the people need, clothing, they need hot meals. Please remember the phone line or the number to call towards the Volta Tidal Wave Relief Fund. Volta Tidal Wave Relief Fund is 020 90 62 388. 020 90 62 388. Call them and they would give you guidance as to how the relief, the support you want to give can reach them. Thank you very much. Now let's get to the bigger issue. Now start with you, Edwigi.
Point out. You see, the issue about economic activities within that area, we also need to look at it. As we speak, you are aware that it's been over a year that we've basically closed the Aflao borders. The kind of economic activity that particular border engenders, that's where a lot of the people rely on for their economic activities. So I'll plead with those with the benefit of power to look at lessening the conditions within the area by opening up the borders again. We have used COVID as an issue why the borders have been closed. It does appear that there's a lot of information on COVID and how we are able to minimize its impact for now. And so that should be enough basis for us. But that said, if you look at the tragedy of, if you look at how events have, happened over the period, and you rightly pointed out the 1960, poem by Professor Nyedevu in that particular area, and how the sea had basically stolen the lands from my people. And the challenge in all of this is that with the benefit of technology and greater learning, we've come to the point that we believe that with sea defense projects, we are able to, as it were, stand the shock that comes from the sea or the waves. Now, previous administrations, starting from Jerry Rawlings's time, have been putting up sea defense projects. Once another administration comes, it takes over, either completes or extend. Now, if you look, the most recent conversation about sea defense project within that area is the one that was awarded in 2015 to Amandi, company. The current administration took over the project and ensure its completion up to 2019. Our prayer is that the path left right to Aflao ought to start ASAP. 2019, 2020, 2021, there had not been any budgetary allocation for that project. I strongly believe that we can put a permanent fix to the challenges that our people are going through. You also need to look at the problem relative to the immediate needs of the people. And to this extent, I need to commend multimedia greatly for the intervention, the short codes. Even if it's 100 Ghana cedis that people are putting in, ultimately we'll be able to accumulate something for mattresses, food items for the people, at least for their immediate needs, whilst we begin to look for permanent fix. Because it's obvious that even if you are going to, do a sea defense project now, it is going to take another 2, 3, 4 years in order to complete it. But within the current arrangement, the people should have something. Now, there had been also this conversation that they were going to relocate the people and build some shelters for them elsewhere. That promise was made almost around March this year. We are in November. There had never been anything significant on the grounds to suggest that government intends to roll out this intervention to the people. So in terms of the immediate needs of the people, beyond the quick fix intervention from NADMO, there's nothing you can, ascribe permanency to as we speak today. And I think that government officials need to be a bit more proactive. I was expecting, and rightly so, that at least the president, together with the Minister for Works and Housing, or maybe the Environment, would have at least just spent 30 minutes in that area, look at the extent of the challenge, and look at how we can fashion out a complete
But NADMO has been there, and you will agree that national security will also be involved, and they will feed back to the president and the minister.
You see, Senior Sam said, the presence of the president is different from having national security details providing that kind of information. Even at the level of, empathy, I mean, your presence alone shows that you're going to be a bit more proactive. Now, when the president comes and gives direct instruction to ministers, it carries a lot of weight than national security briefings. And so I would have expected that he did that before going for the week leave. But that said,
it's possible his schedules would not have allowed that, and this is a program that
is what I'm
would
saying.
have been arranged long before.
You see, that is why I'm saying that sometimes it's just 30 minutes. That's how much time you need to just empathize with the people. And it creates a more lasting impression relative to what challenge they are going through.
But that's not also the same. The lack of that is not the same as neglect.
I wouldn't want to suggest that, but the optics is very important.
Okay. The optics normally very, very important for the politicians,
Oh, no. Even for the people.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Well, it's a very sad situation we are talking about. Now, before I go to my guest, I just wanted to read a line from Professor Kofi Awuno's poem. And I realized that people are beginning to write poems about the situation. Jifar Gomashi has also written one. Those of us who went to do English and also the theater arts, Jifar and I were in class.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it comes naturally sometimes for a number of us. Now,
and that's the same as your performing arts?
Yes.
Okay.
No, not the same. You do a number of subjects. You do 4. Eventually, you may major in 1 or 2.
I recall my African studies. I came to do dance and all those stuff.
Okay. So, Professor Kofi Awuno writes and says that it was a cold Sunday morning. The storm was raging. And this is 1964, please.
Amazing.
The storm was raging. Goats and fowls were struggling in the water. The angry water of the cruel sea. The lapping of the backwater at the shore. And above the sobs and the deep and low moans was the eternal hum of the living sea. It has taken away their belongings. Adana has lost the trinkets which were her dowry and her joy. In the sea that eats the land at home, eats the whole land at home. And the story just told by one of the victims is clearly, justified by this poem. The sea was over 1,000+ meters away from their home. Today, it is only 30 meters to their home. So, gentlemen, first, beginning again with Hubert Osei Owusu Ansah, Acting Director, Hydrological Services Department. What do you know about this, sea defense project? At a point, there was a resettlement. Some we're told how many homes were built for some people, and they were moved away as the project was ongoing. What do you know about it? And what do you know about why it's taking forever to get this done?
Thank you. First, I would like us to get a clear distinction between the projects so far undertaken in the Keta area. In fact, the current issue is to do with the Blekuso Sea Defense Project, for which the first phase has been completed. From 1997 to 2004, the Keta Sea Defense Project was undertaken. And I see that it seems there's a confusion between the Keta Sea Defense Project and the Blekuso Sea Defense Project. In fact, what is at stake now is under the Blekuso Sea Defense Project. So the Keta Sea Defense Project was undertaken from 1997 to 2004. Subsequently, the ministry from 2010 undertook what we called the Atoko Jita Anyanui Sea Defense Project. That was done under 3 phases. Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, undertaken by Michels Amandi Holdings. So far, the Ministry of Works and Housing has undertaken the Keta Sea Defense Project from 1997 to 2004. the Atoko Jita Anyanui Sea Defense Project from 2010 to roughly 2014, and then the Blekuso Sea Defense Project from 2015 to 2019. That's the first phase.
Is it the Keta Sea Defense project that we got $100 million for, and it was supposed to be done in 3 phases, and for which Kufuor's administration completed the first phase, spending $54 million?
For the Keta Sea Defense Project, the project cost was about $90 million US. Feasibility studies were undertaken from 1997 to 1999. Construction of works from 1999 to 2004. So as the earlier speaker said, there was continuity when there was change of government.
Yeah, President Kufuor had cause to speak about it in 2016, and he pointed to $100 million for a 3-phased project, and the first phase completed under him at $54 million.
Please, let's look at it this way. Total amount was about $90 million US. And the scope of works, we had construction of sea defense structure to protect about 9-kilometer stretch, construction of road about 8.3 kilometers, reclamation of land of about 240 hectares, and also the construction of a flood control structure. So this was what was done under the Keta Sea Defense project.
And it is the first phase that was done.
Well, under the project, we had Keta Sea Defense project. Maybe following that, other works could have been done. And in fact, the Blekuso Sea Defense project is a continuation, in fact, by location of the Keta Sea Defense project.
Okay.
Yes, by location.
Yeah, any explanation why we don't have the sea defense project complete over all this while, and the storm surge is wreaking this havoc?
The ministry has completed the first phase, as we all know, from 2015 to 2019. And the ministry had and has plans to undertake the second phase. But I would like to make this clear. Problems related to coastal erosion in Ghana. One major problem is the larger expenditure for coastal protection to prevent damage. The larger expenditure for coastal protection to prevent damage. And in fact, Ghana's coastline is about 550 kilometers. And out of this 550 kilometers, about 2/3 is under beach erosion. So we have problems all over. And for that matter, the ministry is making effort to implement projects to solve all these problems.
You say the larger expenditure has to be put into prevention, correct?
Yeah, in other words, to implement coastal protection works. It's very expensive.
Okay. And,
yes.
and that's comes down to the walls that are being built. Is that not so?
That's right. The walls being built.
So why have you been, as it were, toying with it? We don't seem to have committed to be that committed and focused in completing these projects within good time enough.
For the Blekusu Sea Defense Project, for which the first phase was completed in 2019, our ministry received proposal for the second phase. Hydro has done the evaluation, and our ministry and the Ministry of Finance, is making efforts to find money to undertake the second phase. For looking at what we experience here, I wouldn't say that it has taken too long. It's unfortunate we have this happening, but I know our ministry, the Ministry of Works and Housing, and the Ministry of Finance are making great efforts to continue. And in fact, so far, under our coastal protection works, we've been protecting maximum of 5 kilometer stretch. But for the second phase of the Blekusu, we intend to implement 8 kilometer stretch. And in fact, this has been made known to the public for some time now. So in fact, this indicates the seriousness our ministry attaches to the second phase of the Blekusu Sea Defense project.
Okay, let's hear Selom and Philip Nari. What do you have to say about why we are where we are today, despite having identified long ago that this is the solution? We know the solution, and we have actually commenced projects to implement the solution. Why are we where we are still? Yes,
something. Yes. I would not say we have identified the solution completely. We are identifying the solution, and I think that is one of the problems. Let me start by looking from policy perspective. Coastal erosion, coastal inundation, flooding has a lot of environmental consequences. Here is the case in Ghana. We have the HSD, Hubert's Place, being under the Ministry of Works and Housing, not in direct relation to the Environment Ministry. To me, that creates a slight problem from the perspective of management. It would have been a good idea if we had the Hydrological Services Authority in place now, in which sense it would take the agency slightly from being under the ministry and the ministry control to slightly autonomous with more environmental inputs where we can manage things better. That is the first thing. And I know the bill has gone up and down and they are supposed to pass it, but up to now, we still have it as a small desk under the Ministry of Works and Housing. To me, from policy perspective, that's the first problem. Now, the second problem, the second issue is in all human endeavors, if you want to solve a problem, you first identify the problem and then plan towards it. It looks to me as if the planning, the identification of the problem is a bit deficient in the case of Ghana. Taking other global examples into perspective, you would expect that by now we would have a shoreline management plan in place in Ghana. It is a plan for managing the shoreline. It is integral to coastal areas management plan. A lot of serious countries, the shorelines that they treasure, tend to have it. Then within this plan, you have programs for what you do to each sector of the coastline. For instance, when the Keta Sea Defense War was put up, immediately academics said that you are going to have problem in Adina in Blekusu all the way to Aplau. It was going to happen. It's called the Downdraft Effect. It is standard science. We know this, and Hubert knows this, and Philip knows this. So if we had a plan in place, we would have started planning since then. Completion was 2004, what to do next for the Downdraft Effect. We don't seem to have put in a shoreline management plan, which should have been for the entire coastline of Ghana, and then we even shared with our neighbors, Togo and Cote d'Ivoire, for transboundary effects of this. So I think that is a major thing that we need to start looking at seriously if we are going to solve our erosion and flooding problems. In fact, the shoreline management plan is defined as a plan that limits or minimizes the risk, the combined risk of flooding and erosion on the coastline. Otherwise, our sea defense projects are going to become ad hoc. It's going to be like, it's a flooding event in Keta, so let's build a defense wall for them. There's one in Ada, which happened a couple of years ago. Let's build a defense wall for them, and so on and so forth, forgetting about the interaction between whatever we are doing and the adjacent coastlines next to it. So we need to start looking at that seriously. Our solutions also need, in my opinion, to be science-based. When we make this identification, this difference, that our solutions need to be science-based. A lot of times people don't get it. They say, well, we are using a lot of technology in solving the problems, but it's different from engineering and science-based. Engineers are trained to go and solve problems. They go to the field, they hear what the problems you have for them, they look at the cost of solving the problem and they solve it. I mean, I'm one, so I know. But then again, I'm a scientist. Science-based means that you have studied the environment, look at the causative factors that is responsible for the problem you are seeing, and hence pushing the engineers to the most optimal solution that would, bring long-term benefits to the coastline. For the science part, we have been seriously lacking in that field. Hence, when the problem comes, we usually get a foreign player like Amandi, like Great Lakes, who come to Ghana, do not even have a very good understanding of our geomorphology, of our socio-cultural values, how we look at the coastline. And they throw in something. And we feel like, well, it is from outside, we've done it for us. So the buy-in is not there. So I think we need to do a home-based or home-brewed science-based solution to our project. In some areas, simple things would solve the problem. In some areas, we need a big sea defense wall. And then I don't know whether we're going to talk about the types of defense mechanisms we've been doing for flood control in Ghana.
Okay. So let's hear Philip quickly, and then return to that, because tied to that, and before we wrap up on this segment and move on to the issues of the economy and social justice, there is the question of whether we should actually continue this sea defense thing, rather than, because it does appear we are losing the fight in trying to fight the sea. And that the proper thing may be, to spend those huge amounts of money we hear, millions of dollars. Of course, we know, again, that some of this money will go into the corruption. But is there not a way to look at using a chunk of the money for proper resettlement of the people far away from the place of danger? So I'd like you to end on that when Philip gives us his take about why we are where we are, when we appear to have identified the solution and have been on the implementation. Yes, Philip.
All right. I think Salama has said all, and basically, if it's the problem, we've not really 100% identified the solution, like you said. Because if it is so, like we would have an integrated plan in place, like you said, And we will have known that some places, maybe it's just going into, maybe move the people away from, because we know that area, no matter what you do, it will still flood. Some areas to just be maybe just nourish the place, and then some places just elevate the place and go on. So I think that is a major issue. If you just go, like I said, just go in, there's a problem here, you go and intervene. It doesn't solve the problem. You transfer the problem to other places, and that is something that we should be investing in. Long-term monitoring should be in place along our coast. If that is in place, then we can, when there's an issue, then we can say, okay, putting this and this together, let's do this intervention at this place. So that is so I think that we should, as a nation, invest in long-term monitoring along our coast. It will go a long way to help us in our interventions.
Right. So maybe concluding with you, up to also answer, tell us, shouldn't we use this to look at the nationwide preparedness? Not only NADMO, shouldn't there be other ways, better than just NADMO, getting ready for something to happen and then they come sprinkle some Tampico and mattresses at people?
Yes, I think Salam pointed to that. We should have a national body or something in place that, okay, which has representatives of all this, which is looking at just the coastline, what should be done. So, like I said, let's start from having data in place, long-term monitoring in place. Let's look at the various types of beach, what is happening there, what needs to be done. And then if we have those things in place as a nation, not just at piecemeal, at community level, okay, this happening here, this happening. If we have it as a nation in place, we have a body in place looking at coastal zone management or the shoreline management, I would say that is the way to go.
All right.
And it will help us. Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jason Kwashiga. He has his PhD in marine science with the Institute for Environment and Sanitation Studies, University of Ghana. Now, Selom Jacko Ababio, MD, Kelly Engineering Consult Limited, and former lecturer in Coastal Engineering and Oceanography, University of Ghana. My question is, are we prepared, or we are just a NADMO approach, and the approach is after the fact, go and distribute some mattresses and get people some food?
Well, I mean, clearly we are not very prepared for this because we don't have a plan in place for this. We mentioned the climate change angle and the adaptation strategies. We have not put those things in place. I made a prediction that this is going to continue. 2 years ago or 3 years ago, it happened in Greater Accra region. We spoke about it, it went quiet, and we are here again. We are not adequately prepared. We need to put in plans, anticipate what is going to happen, start putting mechanisms in place to prevent that. Talking about relocation, relocation is also very expensive, just like coastal protection. But there's a difference. If you protect a portion of your shoreline, the value of that shoreline keeps growing with time. That sandbar is going to become more and more valuable as time goes on. Okay. It is important that we protect such areas. And we are proposing a harbor even for that area. It has become more important. However, let's put in the right plan, the right mechanism so that we can protect this part of our nation, build it, put the policies in place, have a coastal environment that a lot of us tend to visit and, enjoy it. That is what I think is critical about this. We could go into different ways of protecting it.
Sorry, but talking about harbor that you mentioned, don't we get into these activities with for example, with the port expansion in Tema and Takoradi? and the landing beaches that we are doing, don't they end up displacing the seawater and causing the levels to rise? You noted earlier, as we have found from the issue of the climate change, that we are already dealing with coastal areas that are the lowest of all the shorelines.
Yes, the academic in me would like to correct something that you said quickly. Putting up harbors and landing sites would not increase the sea level. That is not what causes the sea level. That is a different mechanism to global climate change. However, once you do any intervention in the coastal environment, it will have its positive and negative aspects. For instance, erosion around Temanu town all the way to maybe even Poon is quite connected to the construction of the Tema port, and they have bought a brand of that construction. The new port, I'm made to understand, which is managed by MPS, has put in monitoring mechanisms to make sure that any effect of that construction, they'll monitor it. That's the kind of thing we talk about. So yes, once you put in all those structures, we have a problem. However, what you do is, if you have a general national plan of what you want to do with your shoreline, then if a private developer, a government agency, or even a local authority says that let us build a harbor here, then we know that this harbor would cause X amount of problems. Hence, it's a good idea or not a good idea. And then when it's been built, we look for funds as to how to protect the rest of the country, which will probably be inhabited by poor people who will not very much benefit from that harbor as the rich people who are far away. We need to put that kind of planning in place if we want to, develop our coastline. The coast is a beautiful place. The science has grown. We can protect it. We can even advance it, move the sea forward, if that is what we choose to do. It doesn't change anything. It's not a bad thing to advance the shoreline, in a country. That can be done. But it must be done within a framework. That's like entire coastline.
All right.
With science-based approach, with monitoring and evaluation.
All right. Thank you very much. And let me end with you. We have been told global warming is rising. There's rising sea levels which are causing massive erosion. In some places, it is eating away more than 100 feet of land in just a single year. And this is expected to, continue to rise. We have the annual rate of erosion that is reported at 1.13 million, identified for Accra's coast. And we have some others similar for Cape Coast, Moree, Elimina areas, and so on. What's the plan? Because we have the notice and we have the knowledge. What's the plan?
Okay, thank you. These problems, and I must say, with the formation of the Ghana Hydrological Authority, which Parliament is considering at the moment, more effective plans could be put in place. In fact, Salom mentioned Shoreline Management Plan, SMP. In fact, that's very critical in the management of erosion and also flooding along our coastline. Now, with the formation of the Ghana Hydrological Authority, we have more resources. In fact, the establishment will be resourced better to look at these. It's not what we are discussing now, but I'd like to mention the issue of flooding with regards to drainage. Okay, that's also a critical issue which the Ghana Hydrological Authority could look at. But you see, with the Sea Defense Project, I would like all of us to understand that it's capital intensive.
Yeah, you have said that already.
And for that matter, yes, and for that matter, we must find means to recoup the investment we make. In this regard, value addition is highly required. Okay. And I think under the Ghana Hydrological Authority, we can make good strides in this also.
Thank you very much, Hubert Osei Owusu Ansah, Acting Director, Hydrological Services Department. Also, Abebio, MD, Kelly Engineering Consult Limited, and former lecturer in Coastal Engineering and Oceanography, University of Ghana, Dr. Philip Nari Jason Kwashiga, whose PhD is in Marine Science. He's with the Institute for Environment and Sanitation Studies, University of Ghana. We take a break here. When we return, thank you so very much, gentlemen. When we return, we have our second segment on the economy, questions of social justice, and our guest, we will have Professor Charles Godfred Aka, Associate Professor of Economics, Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, ISA, and former Director, Center for Social Policy Studies, University of Ghana. We also have Edugisto with us, and Dr. Priscilla Chumesi Bafor, Senior Lecturer, Department of Economics, University of Ghana. Stephen Amoah, Sticker, also joins us. Dr. Stephen Amoah is MP for Inshaiso and former CEO, Microfinance and Small Loans Center, Maslock. We'll be right back.
Poverty is grinding down millions of people all over the country. Prices of essentials are rising daily. People seem to struggle to keep families and lives together. Though poverty stares us in the face, it appears lost to those with power. The express commitment of the President of the Republic to protect the public purse, a promise that citizens welcomed, seems to be an illusion now. Are those managing the public purse not concerned about waste and misapplication of resources that belong to all Ghanaians?
At the last reckoning, in the second quarter of this year, our total public debt stood at 334 billion Ghana cedis, representing a debt to GDP ratio of over 80%. And according to Fitch, this is set to rise in 2022 and reach 90% if no action is taken by 2023. This also means that the public debt has increased by 214 billion Ghana cedis from the 120 billion in January 2017. The debt to GDP ratio in January 2017 on the current rebased GDP was 56%. So how have we gone from 56% to almost 80% in 4.5 short years? The ostentation and opulence that have characterized the spending of taxpayers' money contrast sharply with the suffering of the people. The misuse of scarce resources on the avoidable creature comforts of the president and other leading officials must come to an end. It is an unpardonable show of disrespect and insensitivity to the plight of the suffering of the mass of millions of Ghanaian citizens spent on renting luxurious aircrafts for presidential travel at a time spent on renting luxurious aircrafts for presidential travel at a time when the state of Ghana has a
his record of signing onerous take-or-pay contracts and high-priced natural gas deals have to be exposed for the financial problems they continue to pose to the economy. His inability to fund fuel to run power plants protracted doomsday, causing havoc to businesses and social life, an admission he made to Parliament himself several times. His third favorite topic on the Thank You campaign tour is about current debt and how he was accused of borrowing excessively. Of course, if you borrow recklessly, you need to be told. His IMF journey was because of his inability to manage the dangerous territory into which he led our financial sector. He confessed in Parliament himself how recklessly the financial sector had been mismanaged, leading to major losses in savings, incomes, and jobs for banks and savings and loans financial houses.
You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform. It's brought to you by Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner, MTN everywhere you go. HLC University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons, seeing is believing. We lead, home is where one starts. Star Assurance, your solid partner. MG Auto Trading, official distributors of MG vehicles in Ghana. CBG, we stand with you. Fabrimental, your partner in steel, and Rehoboth Properties. And my outfit is by Habil Couture. They are at Adring on the Gates, East Legon. You can always reach them. 0200 84 1988. 0200 84 1988. And please don't forget to reach out to the people of Keta and its environs who have suffered the devastation of the waves, storm surges. The number to call is 020 90 62 388. Please write it down. 020 90 62 388. Just call and you get directions as to how to make your contribution in mattresses, blankets, mosquito nets, food supplies, among others. And that is the Volta Tidal Wave Relief Fund. Thank you very much. And God bless you for being your brother or your sister's, keeper. Now, I'm going to my guest shortly, but let me share some of the messages that you have shared with us. I announced earlier that Dr. Aka will be with us, but he will not. This one from Frimpong Benny. He says, it's very worrying and disturbing whenever one hears the former president talk about the economy. Under his watch, the management of the economy was abysmal. The majority submission about the Keta sea wave was very unnecessary. Papa J Jr., that's Elichem official, says the NPP and its communication directors lack it all. What kind of research was done which led Afenyo Making, a son of the Keta land, to disgrace himself just like that? K. Amwa says, to be very frank, what is the interest of Honorable Afenyo Making in this sea defense wall issue? He is not the MP for the area. He is not the minister with mandate to supervise sea defense wall. So what is his beef? Komla Azaglo Jr. says, as citizens, we need to push back when government says we got free water and electricity. I get so livid when I hear it. Such talk must end, and we were made to pay it back. Have they forgotten? Okay, so that's referring to Communications Director at the Presidency, Eugene Ahin, who speaks about human memory that is short, and that is why we seem to have forgotten that we got some freebies recently when we are talking about the economy having problems. And then Gasma says Afenyo Makin engaged in the production and circulation of fake news by showing pictures that had no association with Keta, thus causing fear and police has begun. No special breeds go arrest Afenyo Makin for causing fear and alarm. Edward Lanyo says that the permanent fix is government providing housing facility through private partnership and enforcement of the law. The law must be enforced, like Eduji said. If sand mining were the cause, why does government want to waste our money in constructing a sea defense wall at these areas when they can just check the art? Okay, so for Afenyo and Co, they didn't say it's the cause. They say it aggravates, and I think we admit that it destroys your protection, you know, a lot more. Prince Henry in Koforidia says, in serious country, the deputy majority leader in Ghana's parliament, lawyer Afenyo Makin, should have resigned and facing prosecution for misleading by presenting false information to the entire Ghanaians and the world at large. That picture was not from Keta. Yes, we know. We just told you it is from Sierra Leone, the Hamilton Beach, where as many as 40 trucks are parked there each day picking sand. PD Ayayi says that the people of Jita, Keji Kope, Tetevi Kope, Amutinu, Salakope, and its enclave are feeling helpless with a little bit of hopelessness. What we need now is to alleviate their plight by supporting them, not politicking. They need help. Yes, whilst it is true they need help, we also must not hesitate to say that the human things that are done that destroy their defense must be dealt with. With or without sand mining, tidal waves will happen, but the effect will be felt gravely on a shore with sand mining than that without sand mining. I'll read the last one. Isaac Achuche says that what the majority in parliament is telling the people of Keta is that, quote, if it is so important to them, they should go and fix it themselves, unquote. After all, they are near our flower. Collins Little Tete says that the pillars, leaders to help fix the country are not helping because deep down you have people who want wealth without working, who have knowledge without character, and who want to go into politics without principles. Thank you. I have to shelve quite a good number of your messages because time is running on us. Thank you so very much, Dr. Stephen Amwa, and also to Priscilla. Thank you so very much for making the time to join us, and we apologize that we have run a bit into the time that would have been dedicated to this discussion. Thank you, Dr. Priscilla Chumesiba, thank you.
Thank you very much, Samson. Thank you for having me, and good morning to your cherished listeners.
Great. Okay, I hear we have lost Stika on the line. Stika is Stephen Amwa. Forgive me for calling him Stika. That's what I'm used to calling him. All right. So, yeah. Okay, so let's start with you, Doc. When you hear the commentary from the Catholic bishops and President Mahama, and you hear the reactions from the presidency and the NPP, what do you say? Have they spoken people's reality, and have these reactions further shown that the managers of the economy are oblivious and feel unaffected by what people are going through?
Thank you once again, Samson. So, to start with, I must say that the issues raised by the Catholic bishops and to some extent former President Mahama these are legitimate issues. Legitimate issues on the back of the fact that if you look at our growth rates over the years, you clearly see that our GDP growth from 2018 was 6.2%, 2019 was 6.5%, 2020, our growth rate was 0.4%. And when we talk about these numbers, we are talking about total production that has gone on in the country at a given point in time. So you see that there has been a significant turnaround in the level of production in the country. And that is reflected in the livelihoods of people, in the area of employment, in the area of livelihoods, people earning income. But the reality is that the significant downturn of the growth, you should also bear in mind, was could and largely as a result of the COVID pandemic. So you say that the backlash that is coming from the ruling government, I must say, I do not know whether for some reason, sometimes power makes people lose touch of the reality. But the numbers indicate, and when you look at the inflation rate as well, you see that recently the rate of inflation has increased slightly on the back of increases in the price of petroleum products due to taxes, and also partly due to exchange rate depreciation, which is picking up the price. So the ordinary Ghanaian feels the pinch of it. No matter how small you might think that it would not have an effect, it has an effect on transportation. It has an effect, and so long as transportation is affected, it has an effect on food prices. Because when you look at the Statistical Service report on inflation for October, you see that the pickup in inflation was as a result of high prices in housing, water, electricity, and fuel. So the ordinary Ghanaian is feeling the pinch of this. And so I would expect that government communication machinery would be more sensitive to the plight of the Ghanaian and not, for want of a better word, should have responded in a more humane manner from my perspective. Yeah.
What is wrong with the response that says that, let's take Eugene Ahin. He responds and he says that the criticisms are not credible from the Catholic bishops. He says that he questioned the credibility of the criticisms and then said that these criticisms should be well grounded in fact, as this is the only way an honest conversation devoid of malice and propaganda can be held. I don't know if that's to suggest that they are getting into propaganda or giving fodder for propaganda. It's Yao Boabeng who said that what they said, which lacks clarity and focus, may rather be used by the NDC as enabling them to be able to say the things they say. He said the evidence on the ground, I'm talking about Eugene Ahin, points to a healthy economic conditions. He says the transformation that is taking place in all aspects of national life point to an economy that has been well managed, a public purse that is being well protected. Human memory can be short, but it cannot be so short that we have forgotten the free food, free electricity, or free water that were provided en masse by the government to the most vulnerable in society during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. So he mentions also COVID-19. You have Yaboabia Samoa, who also mentions COVID-19 as the biggest issue. You have just also referred to COVID-19. I will come back to that on the next question, where President Mahama says we have neighboring countries whose economies have not suffered as much as we claim, even in COVID. So this is not right. But my question first to you is where their reactions come from. They say it's a healthy economy, this is lack of credibility in the criticisms, and so on.
Once again, Samson, I believe that if you say they should back their claim and make it credible, you are indicating they should go get data to back the facts. But the reality is that people's reality will speak the truth at the end of the day. The Catholic bishops are not in the position to come out with figures to back what they are saying. But to a large extent, they are in touch with society and they see what goes on. So if you say they should prove it, I do not know how else they expect them to prove it. But the reality is that people need jobs, people are out of jobs, prices are going up slightly, fuel prices are up. The reality is that when you also look at the debt levels, it has increased significantly between 2019 and 2020. And you indicated, I pointed out to COVID, and you can clearly tell that under COVID, we really spent beyond our means, because when you look at the debt level, it rose clearly to about 15%, by about 15% within 2019 and 2020. So the reality is that I have indicated that the GDP growth rate for 2020 speaks volumes. It speaks volumes in terms of jobs that are lost, in terms of livelihoods. And the evidence shows that poverty levels, all the gains that countries had made in terms of poverty reduction over the years, have been significantly rolled back because of the COVID pandemic. I would say that, yes, in all these, we have to situate it and not lose sight of the fact that globally we have gone through a pandemic, and that has a significant negative impact on it. But that said, I believe that the strategy for government going forward should not be to attack the messengers of whatever information that they do not like, but look at the merits of it, because people are in that situations in terms of income generation options that are increasingly becoming very limited in the country.
Right. Now, the issue about COVID that you also refer to, so when former President Mama was speaking, he says this thing, making COVID the excuse, is simply to conceal the appalling incompetence and recklessness in the management of the economy, because he says that other economies have suffered, COVID-19 as well, and he wants to use our, neighbors, so to speak. He says it is the overspending that led to the very large deficit that has undermined the economy and left it in Paulos shape. Data from our neighbors and other comparators in sub-Saharan Africa, who were also ravaged by COVID-19, clearly shows that almost all of them kept their economies within manageable limits and have not been thrown into the economic crisis we find ourselves in. So he shows us the example. He says, let's begin with Cote d'Ivoire, which was President Akufo-Addo's favorite comparator to Ghana in the run-up to the 2016 elections. COVID-19 did not affect us any more extraordinarily than it did Cote d'Ivoire. Yet their budget deficit for 2020 was 5.9%, and their debt to GDP ratio stands at 45.7%. Togo, Benin, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Niger, among others, have deficits below 7%, while their debt to GDP are nowhere near the 80% we have recorded. What do you say to that? We can't be saying COVID-19 is responsible for the difficulties in the economy?
Indeed, once again, I'll say that when you look at our strategy for managing COVID-19, you see that there was a lot of expenditure rolled out. These were not planned expenditure. You look at free water, free electricity, food. And I mean, Ghana was touted as one of the stars of Africa in terms of management and being sensitive to the plight of the poor. But the reality is that most of the expenditure that went on, those were transitory in nature. So we enjoyed electricity, water for a period of time. And you show that you clearly indicate that the communication machinery is saying, have we forgotten? The challenge is that in economic terms, changes in incomes that are transitory are not issues that people base their expectations on. So you see that people enjoy these. It was good at the time. And to a large extent, some of us questioned the rationale behind a lot of the freebies that were enjoyed because it was an election year. Probably there was a lot of politics that had to do with it. But the reality is that the overspending, when you look at the numbers, is clearly having a toll, and it shows on the debt to GDP, because when you look at government budgets, you see that the deficit significantly increased during that period. So the reality is that we manage COVID. We cannot downplay the negative effect of COVID on our economy, but indeed we overspent and we spent beyond our means with the hope that when the economy picks up and we recover, we could recover most of the loss that had been made. But the challenge really, when you look at government budgets, you are looking at the expenditure and the revenue side. And clearly you show that the revenue side, there's a lot of issues in terms of revenue mobilization, and government is not able to make enough to make up for the expenditures. On the expenditure side, we need to look at expenditure rationalization, value for money. And those are the issues that border on corruption that the Catholic bishops are also looking at. So it's a whole issue, and I get the dilemma that government is in because, I mean, on the back of all these, this is a government that has been known to have criticized a government based on economic issues. And the fact is, the statistics are not looking too great as expected. But I do not also want us to downplay the effect of COVID because it is quite significant.
Right. In the rare occasions like this one that we have benefited from your wisdom, you have focused on employment and what targets the youth to ensure that, you know, the economy will grow. But what do you say to the claim that the present economic decline is even more shocking when viewed against the backdrop that this has been the most fortunate government in the history of Ghana in terms of the quantum of resources it has received?
Indeed. So when you look at the quantum of resources that it has received, the evidence is pointing that this government has had a lot of it. But this is also a government that has rolled out a massive social expenditure scheme on the back of the free SHS, which is also consuming quite a chunk of the resources that are generated locally. So on that scale, you see that yes, government was quite ambitious on the estimation of revenue that was to come in. And based on that, there has also been the argument. So for the free SHS, because when you look at the data, you see that capital expenditure in recent times have been dwindling. And as a developing country, we need that capital expenditure. So the argument has been, should we include expenditure on free SHS as a capital expenditure element because we are investing in human capital? That is something we can debate about. But the reality is that, yes, government was a bit ambitious in terms of the expectations of revenue, and for that matter, rolled out expenditures that are also quite ambitious. And based on all this, without anticipating any significant negative shock, that explains quite the position we are in. And when you look at the unemployment situation, you see that, yes, government is struggling because the private sector that is supposed to drive that agenda based on prudent economic management is also struggling to find it fit reeling back some of the negative effects that the pandemic has had on them.
Okay. Hold on there for me. When I return to you, I'd like you to share with us, even if it is repeating, solutions you have given us already before. Once the issues remain unresolved, we have to repeat them. What two major steps that government needs to take, in your view, to reverse the downward, trend as far as the economy is concerned, from the critics, and to avoid what we are told that, international financial watchers, including the Fitch and the rest of them, are likely to do to destroy the confidence in the economy. So when we return to you, I'll take that. Then Dr. Stephen Amwa joins us. Thank you very much for your time, Doc. Before I come to you, let's hear from Eduji Tameklo. The Catholic bishops, the former president, have they not been, saying things in a manner that, you will not exactly fault the reactions coming from the government? Sheikh Arami Al-Shaibu of the Chief Imam's office says the Catholic bishops are being citizens and not spectators. But some people feel that the way they spoke and the way the former president also spoke, you can't fault the reaction from Yabwa Beng and Eugene Ayin. What do you say?
Okay, so Senior, once again, I think I need to, what shall I say, disclose a certain interest. Dr. Prisla happens to be my lecturer in industrial economics. So I want to quickly deal with the matter that she spoke about. A lot of excuses have been given to this administration relative to the high expenditure, the total revenue of this country. And like she rightly pointed out, a certain conversation is built around free SHS, that by reason of that intervention, a lot of costs had gone into that. It's important to set the record straight that from 2017, September, when we started, this government started the rollout of the free SHS, the overall cost of the entire project is a little over 7 billion Ghana cedis. ESLA alone had given this administration close to 15 billion Ghana cedis within this period. Oil revenue alone had given this administration $13 billion. So that alone is enough to resolve the matters relative to free SHS. That's the 7 billion. So we cannot be using free SHS as the reason for the ballooning expenditure of this administration. You see something, if you pick the 2020 budget, the 2021 budget, you notice that the overall expenditure of this government, they projected, was supposed to be 113 billion Ghana cedis. Out of this, government projected to make 72 billion Ghana cedis. That's the revenue projection. So already, right from the word go, government had already given an indication that it's going to borrow close to 42 billion Ghana cedis in order to meet its expenditure within the year. And so these are the realities. Now, if you pick these numbers, 35 billion of these numbers is going into debt servicing, interest payment, and amortization alone. So if your overall revenue is 72 billion, and you are using 35 billion of it to settle interest payment and amortization, then how much are you left? 839,000 public sector workers, we have already projected to spend 30 billion on them. So 35 plus 30, how much is left? We cannot also be saying that we are using borrowed funds to sustain free SHS, because that cannot be correct. And so, if you listen to the conversation and the reality is that you have a situation where today, government of Ghana is spending so much on consumption at the expense of real, as the learned professor, doctor said, capital expenditure, because that is where the actual growth of the economy usually comes from. So that if you are investing less in capital projects and spending more in consumption, the outcome will be a situation where today the economy is basically grounded, it is not moving. The government's own intervention that in the past it had decided to do away with, government is rolling some of them back. Look, I have with me here, Samson, Custom Division, Ghana Revenue Authority. And basically what they are saying is, quote, removal of benchmark values on selected items commences from November 15, 2021.
What does that mean?
What it means is that even at the ports, the benchmark value that we used to give our importers and exporters, government of Ghana is rolling it back because they need more money, more revenue. So we have come to the point where it is not that the Catholic Bishop Conference and other persons speaking to the economy are just what you call exaggerating or just speaking without reality checks. The truth of the matter is that as we speak today, by the mismanagement of the economy by this administration, we're having to borrow so much. The last one is the attempt in October to go for Eurobond. That had failed. Government of Ghana, and through some of their unofficial spokespersons, are saying that we should blame some of this mismanagement in a globalized incompetence. That is to say, everything is about COVID, everything is about COVID. But everything cannot be COVID. Because as of 2019, the figures were already showing bad signs, even before COVID came in. When COVID came in, the economy went down. I mean, the shutdown was just for 21 days. Before that time, we were told that the economy was sound, robust, resilient. An economy that is sound, resilient, and robust, within 21 days of shutdown, the economy had already gone aground. What it means is that this incompetent administration had basically built a paper economy. The economy is on paper, but the reality, the misery, the hardship associated with our people is there. And you see, if you want a better valuer of the economic growth of our people, you can get it from parish heads, bishops, and pastors. Because at least every Sunday, they know how much they take by way of offering. So that if their members are prosperous, they know how much tithe they are paying. There's a very informal way of assessing how well Ghanaians are doing. And this Catholic bishop, they have the benefit of doing a total valuation of economy. It is not as though they just sat somewhere and then decided to come out now. I have listened to the General Secretary of the Catholic Bishop Conference, and he makes the point that, look, the past years, what they have done is to meet government officials behind closed doors, to raise some of these concerns to them. But there's a extent to which you can go with the behind-the-scene diplomatic talks. The reality today is the excruciating pains Ghanaians are going through. And you cannot divorce. I have listened to the Director of Communication of the MPP, my learned senior Yabo Abian-Samoa, makes the point that there is no hardship and that it is Mahama that is fueling the perception of that. He is so detached from reality. Today, for the first time in the history of this country, we are having to do the dollar-CD exchange over 6 Ghana cedis. Today, fuel prices are going for almost 6.9 Ghana cedis. But senior,
if you listen to the Catholic bishops, Most Reverend Philip Name, when he says that poverty is grinding down millions of people all over the country, granted, prices of essentials are rising daily. Is it not? Why can you fault the guy saying you should say more than that, that prices of essentials are rising daily. Is that sort of, a figure of speech?
No, it is not. It is the reality of our people, and I'll demonstrate that to you. Within 1 year, that's 2021, fuel prices alone have gone up over 16 times. You cannot say that this is not the reality of our people.
No, but you see, prices of essentials are rising daily.
No, but you see,
may be an exaggeration.
It's not. It's not, and I'll show you why it is not. Anytime you go to the ports, right, and items, because of the exchange rate differentials, you are having to incur losses. You pass it on immediately to the consumer. It's a daily thing. And the danger with this is that, Senior, you are unable to even plan. Because if within a year, petrol prices alone have increased over 16 times, how do you plan your life?
But the government, as it were, look, should I say, doesn't control petrol prices?
They do, and I will show you. You see, the excuse that has been given to this country, this government is that, deregulation. As we speak, the tax component of our petroleum product alone, who imposed the tax? Do you know that ESLA was supposed to retire by 2021, 5-year sunshine clause, right? Today, this government had used ESLA receivables as collateral for the ESLA bonds. And so we are stuck with ESLA for the next 15 years. How is that the cause of deregulation? That's the direct cause of government. And also, the exchange rates. We buy refined petrol. And so we need more dollars to buy the petrol outside. The more you need more cedis to get fewer dollars, it puts downward pressure on the cedi. And so the depreciation of the cedi cannot be as a result of deregulation. It's the direct incompetence of the economic management chaired by Dr. Bame. How can you absorb them?
We have raised Dr. Stephen Amoah on phone. Let me see if that is okay. Hello, Dr. Stephen Amoah. Hello, Stephen Amoah.
Yeah, I think I am on.
Yes, you are on.
You can see me.
You are on.
Hello,
thank you.
Can you interact with me through the video?
Thank you. I can see you. Hello.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Sir.
So what do you say? It's being said.
Sir. I can hear you and I can see you.
Great. It's being said that the reactions coming from party and government quarters is a further indication supporting the part of the statement by the Catholic bishops suggesting that it appears what is happening is lost on those with power. What do you mean by the criticisms, lack credibility, they lack focus, they lack clarity, and that it is short human memory that is making people forget that they got freebies 10 months ago and that they just endorsed Akufo-Addo only 10 months ago, and that is an indication that the economy is on the right path. What do you mean when you say the government is sending the economy in the right direction and that there's transformation in all of the sectors and the public purse is protected, which all these people don't see except you?
Sorry. Thank you very much. My regards to Dr. Priscilla Chumesi and then lawyer, my brother from the NDC, everyone watching us and you yourself. I hope you give me quite enough time to speak because it's a very, very serious issue. Something, I am really, really surprised the way this country wants to handle things. And when I speak, people think I am holy. I'm not holy, but I'm just admonishing everyone that everything that one does in this country, first, you have this nation at heart and make sure that that person is addressing issues of this country in line with the very God we all said. If we do this, I'm sure Ghanaians will not make arbitrary decisions. Samson, let's look at our situation. My sister doctor made mentions of issues that are factual. Yes, debt issues, jobs, taxes, exchange rates. Yes. But let's be very honest with ourselves. I didn't want to do politics with this because I wanted to speak as a professional person. But if people want to do politics, I'm expecting the same critics and commentators to do trend analysis, what Akufo-Addo's government took over, and where these parameters are today, if we want to do politics. Because one of the best ways to appraise any performance,
Stephen, unfortunately,
is having a reference
unfortunately, the Zoom is proving difficult. It's not helping your presentation much. So let's use the phone instead. If you can keep to the phone that you have been raised on, I think that line will be much better. Hello, Sticker. Yeah. Please go on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go on. Continue.
Okay. We, in fact, for about 9 months, productivity in our country was impaired. And even now, we have not assumed full productivity. Last year, our revenue generation shortfalls alone was over 14 billion. These are realities. Global impact on us. Even things shipped into our country, vessels owners increase cost or prices from about $2,000 to $4,000 to about $12,000, about 200% increase. And people don't want to analyze even our fiscal space, taking into consideration these serious issues. And these are things you can't do anything, no matter what you are, whether you're a professor in finance, economics, politics, whatever. These are issues that you cannot do much about. And now look at ourselves today. Because of that, our revenue generation was very low, yet we have interest payments, statutory payments, as my NDC brother said. But let's ask ourselves, the interest payment, is it as a result of accumulated debt even before NDC, and NPP? We have maturity dates. Have the maturity dates reached? Is there a time when? Let's really be honest with these issues. Then we can advise the government. In all these, look at our primary macro indicators. We inherited about 15.4% inflationary rate. Import cover was so low, we all know. Now we run into more months. Let's ask ourselves, even when you're talking about debt, without the problems with our fiscal space today because of the pandemic and other market activities uncontrollably that the government couldn't have done much about, between the year 2008 and 2016, by the same, my brothers who are complaining today, they increased our debt portfolios over 1,000%, from 9.23 to about 120 something. Between 2012 and 2016, they increased our debt portfolio over 240%. Compare that to even today that we are having crisis. I appreciate the fact that the Roman Catholic father is highly respected. He's a Ghanaian, freedom of speech, constitutionally, but our position is that we disagree because what he's saying, there is something more to it than that. It is not factual. And he's a human being, he can make mistakes. I don't think he's doing politics. I don't think he's doing so. There are a lot of pieces of information being thrown into the public domain that could deceive anybody at all. After all, Peter and God, they all made mistakes. But if the NDC guys
you are suggesting that the Catholic bishops have been deceived by some propaganda.
No, I'm saying that
at the end of their conference which is their annual plenary assembly, they have actually issued a communique, and I invite people to go look for the communique and read it. They speak about a wide range of issues concerning the economy. District assembly, they want the thing to be elective. They want the planning, Ghana's planning program to be one that is binding on all parties, not bits and pieces that we continue to do. And they speak again about the issue of the hardships that the political leadership and the managers of the economy must do something about.
Can I address what you're saying, please? You're talking about the economy. Interest rate in 2016 was almost 40%. I'm a consultant. Go to the banks and ask. In fact, government-owned rate, which I describe as policy rate, was 25.5%, higher than today's lending rate on our market. So we need to analyze the economy in its totality.
Okay.
Now, interest rate is some of the issues they raise. I agree with them, yes. But even the hardship we are talking about, has there been any era or segment of time in our history that this country is saying there's no hardship? This has been now that we are having global issues affecting almost everyone. So what I'm trying to say is that before people can draw inferences, they should please also analyze where we are coming from.
All right, thank you, Steve.
Can I have time to address
Steve, I'm sorry, our time is up. What I want to do is donate the last, 1 minute to Dr. Priscilla Chumesi to Bafor to tell us what to do to avoid the claim that we hear that might lead to further lack of confidence in the economy. Yes, Doc. We have just a minute to close. Yes.
Samson.
Yes, please.
Yes. So going forward, the way out for government, and we are looking forward to the budget, is to consistently work on developing the real sectors of the economy. We should focus on sectors that are massive on employment generation for young people. So in that regard, we are looking at agro-processing, the manufacturing sector. What opportunities are there? What opportunities are there for young people who are being advised to enter into entrepreneurship?
All right, Dr. Stephen Amwa, my apologies to you. There was not sufficient time. But of course, when the budget is read next week, we will definitely be dealing with the economy a lot more thoroughly. So thank you all so very much for your time. Thank you to Dr. Priscilla Chumesi Bafor, Senior Lecturer, Department of Economics, University of Ghana. And thank you also, Eduji Kujo Temaklo, is a lawyer and member NDC National Communications and Legal Team. And he just, I think, gave a wind that he is going into the matters of finance and economics. I'm Samson Ladi Ayenini. My outfit, as always, is by Habil's Couture at Adringano Gate, East Legon. Call them 0200 84 14 84 1988. 0200 84 1988. And the Volta Tidal Wave Relief Fund. The contact is 020 90 62 388. Have a good afternoon.